So for the career fair, we're using a system that's called Premier Virtual. It's a dedicated online career fair platform that's set up for events just like the ones that we're having in the fall. We'll also have these events virtually in this spring as well. So today's training is going to go over how to register for a career fair in Premier Virtual, how to set up your booth, how to add and manage recruiters, how to add job vacancies, how to participate in the actual career fair, and then how to access candidate data after the event. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll start by talking about how to register for an event in Premier Virtual. Of course, to actually register to participate in a career fair, the actual registration is through Hire a Niner, but there is a brief registration process in Premier Virtual. Some or many of you may have already gone through this registration process, and that is completely fine. I do want to go over it in case you haven't done that. And as I talk about this, if you're thinking, oh, I registered and maybe I didn't, maybe I did something wrong, maybe I didn't quite get it right, that's completely fine. I'm actually in the process of going through all the registrations just to make sure everyone's kind of in and has the right settings. So when you go to a fair page and go to you either will register if you don't have a Premier Virtual account, or you'll go to log in if you do have a Premier Virtual account. Either way, it will ask you some really basic information about your organization. I'll mention that only one person from each organization should actually register for an event, and then you'll have that one account, and then you can add multiple recruiters to that account. The trickiest part about registering for the fair and Premier Virtual is choosing sub-events. So each of the career fairs is divided into sub-events. You can really think of those as sections of the career fair. It's a way to set up the career fair to help candidates find organizations that are relevant to their interest. For the most part, sub-events or sections are set up by functional area, and that's what you're seeing here. So this is the registration form for the fall fair. I know we've got at least one person who's registered for the financial fair, but there'll be something similar for that as well. So you'll see the different options that you have. It's a little more straightforward if you're registering for the financial services fair, but for the fall fair, the steps are to choose the day that you're attending, either day one and or day two, and then go through and uncheck any of these options that don't apply to your organization. So if I was from a healthcare company and was recruiting marketing people and a graphic design intern, I'm on day one. I would choose advertising, marketing, sales, maybe arts and design for that graphic design. And then I would uncheck these options that don't apply to what I'm looking for at this point. I might leave communications. If I'm from an employer, I'm not a grad program. You can leave this option if you are recruiting international candidates. You can uncheck it if you're not. And then if I'm offering an internship, I would leave this checked. We are asking everyone to leave this all registrants checked so we can kind of have one space where students can find all of the employers. So that's what that piece looks like if you haven't gone through that process. If you have and you're realizing that you didn't quite get in the right place, that's fine. I'm going behind and checking those, and you can certainly email us if you want me to, kind of specifically check yours. So that's the registration process. And then let me go ahead and open up an employer account. And once you get signed up, you'll have an account in Premier Virtual, which you can use for kind of any of the events through UNC Charlotte that you're participating in. You can use the same account. So this is the homepage of your account. They call it the dashboard. So we'll talk first about setting up your booth. There's a couple of elements of your booth. So step one, or a first step, is to upload your organization's logo. And that'll go up here in the left-hand at the top corner. You'll just click this kind of button here, and then you'll just be able to find the logo that you want to upload. Double click on that. A lot of the places in Premier Virtual, as you save things, you will get this message that confirms that what you've done is saved. So there's that. So kind of first step is your logo, and then we'll go under the profile section. So I want to talk through kind of these sections and how to edit them or create them. But to give a little context to it, I want to point out that there is a booth preview button up here in the top right. This is definitely one of our kind of top tips, is to make sure that you do a booth preview as you make changes to your account. So let's go ahead and look at the booth preview just so you can kind of see what a career fair booth looks like. So all of the booths will have the similar kind of look or style to them. Your company's logo will show up kind of here, front and center. And then there's two buttons here. One is for your organizational bio, and then the other is for job vacancies. So your organizational bio is a great place to include kind of key information about your organization, kind of what candidates you're looking for. You might decide to include mission, vision, values, things like that. You can include pictures here. Of course, you can include links, and text information here. Of course, we highly, highly recommend that students do their research on companies before the event, but we know that that may not always happen. And so this is a great way for candidates to get a little bit of an overview of what your organization does. I can flip over here to job vacancies. So that's what these look like. We'll talk through a little bit about job vacancies and kind of how to set those up and some tips for that. I just want to show you candidates will get kind of a really brief overview of each of your job vacancies. They can click view job details to view more specific information. And then candidates will always have this opportunity with one click to submit their resume for your job vacancy. So that's what that looks like on the candidate side. And again, we'll talk more about job vacancies in a few minutes. And then we'll look at kind of this right-hand side. So there are actually 3 custom links here. It's only showing 2, but there's 3 that are available. You can make those anything that you want, and I'll show you how to set those up. And then you also have the option to put in your social media accounts. For students, this is another great way for them to kind of get information about your company, kind of get like a feel to your organization. So those are really kind of the key parts of the booth. So let's flip back here. We want to go into the profile section. Again, here's that booth preview button on the top right-hand side. But to go ahead and edit, we'll click the edit button. So kind of this top information is pretty kind of self-explanatory. I'm going to come back and talk about the video chat link in a few minutes, so I'm going to skip over that. You do have the ability to change your password at any time here, and your username is always kind of this main email address. So here's the organizational overview. We saw that in the booth, and again, it's easy to either type in or copy and paste text in here, and you do have kind of a basic editor, so you can highlight text and make text bold. You could put in lists, you can put in links, of course, right? So you can copy and paste in a link, and you can put in images. So I wanted to show you about putting in images. There's a couple of ways to do it. I'm going to show you what I recently found, I think is the easiest way to do it. And so I just pulled up a Google image search and I searched for UNC Charlotte, and I clicked on an image. I'm going to hover over this image. I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy the image. And then I'm going to go back to the profile. I'll click where I want the image, right click, paste, or Control V. Actually, Control V. I'll paste it in. Yep. And so that put the image in here. It does, this one's come in kind of pretty large. I can double click on here to change the size of the image. So you can, all you have to do is put in a width. Kind of 500 is probably a pretty kind of large but manageable size here. And then the image will automatically kind of resize to keep the same height and width kind of thing. So that kind of resized that there. So that's what it's like to put in an image. Of course, you can pull in multiple of those. So that's the organizational overview. The next part is for those 3 custom links that the blue button kind of on the right-hand side. And you can make these anything that you want. You put your own title and your own link in these. So some options for you might be to include a link to your careers page. You might include the link to your main organization website, a list of benefits of working for your organization. You might include information about a link to your community service or community involvement page, a link to your mission, vision, values, a link to your diversity and inclusion practices. So those are some options. I saw one employer already has started setting up their booth, and they are including a link to their Glassdoor, kind of their company information on Glassdoor with employee reviews. Thought that was an interesting idea. And then the last kind of different idea that I wanted to bring up that you could do with custom links is you could have information sessions kind of throughout the event. Since there are 3 links, you could have up to 3 information sessions. And so the idea for this would be that you would put in kind of the title as like info session and the time, and then you would put a link to a video conference room, so a Zoom link, a WebEx, a Google Hangouts kind of link, whatever kind of video conference system that you want to use. So you could put a link to that. And then candidates who are at your booth kind of around that time could click on that link and kind of join an information session, kind of a group session where they could learn more about your organization. That's another idea that you could use your custom links for. One of the things with custom links that's good to know is that there is a character limit. The system will actually kind of limit your characters. As you can see, I'm able to type 40,000 characters. In general, we find that about 20 to 21 characters fit. Here, I'm going to go ahead and save this. This is another really important reason why the booth preview is so valuable. So let's take a look at that, and now you can see this link that I created looks crazy. So again, about 20 to 21 characters fit, but that's something that you'll want to kind of do a booth preview to check out. And then the last section here is just for your social media links. For any of these that you put a link in, that icon will show up on your booth. And then if you leave any of them blank, that icon won't show up on your booth. So that's kind of the general profile. Michelle, any questions at this point? I did mute you, Michelle, so you might be muted if you're trying to talk to me.
No, no questions at this time. I was hoping you'd see the big head shake. No.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's talk about job vacancies. So that's another kind of key part of your booth. You have the opportunity to add multiple job vacancies, probably as many as you would like. I will mention that Premier Virtual is not connected to Hire a Niner, so there's not a way for the jobs you put in Hire a Niner to be kind of just moved over to Premier Virtual. You'll just create jobs in Premier Virtual. That being said, we do highly, highly recommend that you put your jobs in Hire a Niner. That allows candidates to take a look at your positions before the event. If they're not able to attend the event, they can see those positions. And then I'll show you how to add them here. So you just click Add Job. And then there's basically, I think, 4 different main fields. So your job title, the city, the number of vacancies, and then I'll scroll down to the job description. And you can pretty easily copy and paste from the job description that's on your website. You can copy and paste in here. Then these checkboxes, now this is for a test fair, so this is more checkboxes than you'll see in real life. But what I wanted to share is you will see boxes here for any of the sub-events for the career fair itself, like you can see here. Here's the actual career fair. And then for any sub-events that you're in. So Premier Virtual gives you the option to target your job postings if you would like to. You're welcome to put in job vacancies, leave everything checked, and then students will kind of always see the same set of jobs from you. But if you would like to target your jobs, you can do that. And so the idea is with Premier Virtual is that, let's say that I'm an IT candidate and I'm interested in tech and data positions. Let's say I'm at the Fall Career Fair, I click on the technology section, I see your company's booth, I take a look at your job postings, right? And the idea would be that ideally I wouldn't have to scroll through marketing jobs and sales jobs and graphic design jobs to get to IT jobs. You know, they wanted to provide a way that, you know, if a student is in the tech section, they could just see kind of tech jobs from your organization. So if you're creating I saw the question. If you're creating a position and you want to target it, you would just uncheck any kind of sections that you don't want it to show in. That is optional, but that is a feature that you can use to kind of target your job postings. I saw we had a question from one of our grad programs, which is a great one. What do we do with job vacancies if we're a graduate school? You're right, it's probably not, maybe the most ideal kind of for a grad school booth. A couple of options would be you may decide to post graduate assistant, teaching assistant, or research assistant positions. So that might be a great way for candidates to see the kind of experience they could get while they're in graduate school. The other thing that you could use it for would be, let's say you have maybe kind of multiple programs or multiple like concentrations. You could post a job kind of for each of those concentrations just to put a little bit more of a description in there. And I think by including a job like that, it does allow candidates to do that one-click submit a resume, which you'll have access to that information on the back end. And that may help you kind of see which of your programs or which concentrations candidates or students are interested in. So those are kind of two ideas for using the job vacancies section. I do really like the idea of including something, and that's because even if you don't include something, the job vacancies section is going to be an option under your booth, and then it'll just be blank. So those would be a couple of options. And then I also wanted to mention, I know we have a number of employers who their company requires that all candidates apply for their jobs through their website. So if that's the case for your organization, I still want to encourage you to post job vacancies in the system. Again, I think that's better than having this blank section. What you can do, and I'll show you an example of it, would be to include a job description. I encourage you to include more than this one line we put in for this kind of test job. But you can include the job description, and then maybe at the top of it, you could include a line like this, a line that tells candidates that to officially apply, they need to go to your website and apply there. So that could be kind of a good kind of middle ground or a good way to deal with job vacancies. And then what you can do, candidates will still be able to click the submit resume button for that position. And on the back end, you'll be able to pull that data. You could compare it to the candidates who have officially applied online in your system. And then if you find ones that haven't, that would be a great idea to just send them a follow-up email and kind of say, hey, we saw you're interested in this position. The next step is to apply online. Here's how to do that. Yeah, so job vacancies. Other questions about job vacancies? Yeah, we got a question. The section is called job vacancies, but I would absolutely encourage you that you have internships, co-op positions, definitely post those there. I think students will know that they click on that they may find a variety of positions. So absolutely. All right, so we've talked about the main components of setting up your booth. Again, please use that booth preview button to kind of check it out. I'll mention that there is not a kind of a specific deadline for setting up your booth. Any of the things that we're talking about today are things that you can do leading up to the event or even during the career fair. So while there's not a specific deadline, we definitely want to encourage you to have your booth set up about a week in advance of the career fair, just so we can kind of be sure everyone's got their accounts set up. So the next piece we'll talk about is recruiters. So I'll go to the recruiters section. So when you first kind of sign up for Career Virtual, that sets up a single account for one recruiter. And then you can use that account to add as many recruiters as you would like, literally an unlimited number of recruiters. Now, for some of you or many of you, like us, virtual career fairs are new. And so, I think there have been some questions about kind of how many recruiters do I need to have participate in the career fair. So I wanted to give a few tips about that. One is that we definitely recommend that you have at least 2 recruiters at your booth or participating in the fair for the entire career fair time. In Premier Virtual, when candidates go to a booth, there's not a way for them to see whether anyone is logged into that booth or not. And so I know what we don't want to have happen and what you guys don't want to have happen is the candidate goes to your booth, starts a chat, and then no one replies. So you will want to have staff at your booth for the entire career fair time. And then there's also not really a way for candidates to be able to see if how many other students are in your booth, how many other conversations are going on. So if things do get crazy busy in your booth, there's not a way for candidates to kind of see that. I'll talk about a way to kind of have some messaging about that. But I encourage you to kind of plan on maybe plenty of people to be working your booth during the fair. Since it is virtual, it is something that you could have some recruiters who are kind of backup and they can multitask and do email and things and just jump in when needed. To help kind of thinking about numbers, you could think about how many recruiters you would normally bring to an in-person career fair. Also, definitely think about whether or not you plan to do any video chats. If you plan to do video chats during the event, you want to have additional recruiters because while someone is doing a video chat, they're not going to be able to keep up with kind of the text conversations that are going on, if that makes sense. So a few tips about kind of how many recruiters. This is the recruiter section. To add a recruiter, you click add recruiter. And then really you just need to fill in first name, last name, email, and password. My system is defaulting to kind of putting in that information for me, but yours won't. So first, last name, email, and then password. And then that's the information that you'll need to share with your recruiters to show them or give them the information that they need to log in to Premier Virtual. One of the sites that we have set up, I'll show it to you quickly, and we'll also put it in the chat bar. This is the website that we sent out that has screenshots, walkthroughs, videos. One of the things that I wanted to point out is in the recruiter section, I did include kind of a template email that you could use when sending your recruiters their login information. And you'll probably do one of two things with your recruiters. You may kind of set up recruiter accounts and ask them to set up your booth, kind of do the things that we're doing. Or you may set up recruiter accounts and basically just ask them to just participate kind of the day of the fair. So there's wording for kind of either of those scenarios. So if that's helpful for you, that is on our career fairs page. And then the other thing, and I think this is another kind of key tip about working the career fair, is that you can include messages. And so you could think of these as canned responses that you'll be able to use during a career fair. Any of the messages that you put in here are ones that you'll be able to send to a candidate with one click of the button. So definitely think about at a kind of a traditional in-person career fair, what are those things that you say 100 times during that career fair? And those are the kinds of things that are great to have as messages. Some ideas about messages. It's great to have kind of a welcome message. So, hey, welcome to our booth. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by. What kind of opportunities are you looking for? So a welcome message, maybe a closing or a goodbye message. Again, thank you for coming by. We hope that you'll take the next step and apply for positions online, something like that. It's also great to have, just in case, maybe a message about if you guys have gotten busy. So you might have a message set up that says to a candidate, hey, thank you for being here. I definitely want to chat. I'm in a few conversations right now. So if you'll, thank you for your patience, something like that. And then, of course, any kind of messages that you would say to candidates often. And that may be questions, are you open to relocation? What's your major? What kind of position are you looking for? Do you know C++? Kind of any of those questions that you would ask candidates. Maybe a couple of messages that describe, some of your internship opportunities or co-op opportunities. So any of those messages, I think the more that you can set that up beforehand will really make the day of the career fair easier for you. Each recruiter can have their own messages. So your recruiters can set up kind of individual messages. The other thing that you could do would be if you or someone else from your organization wants to set up kind of a standard list of messages that you will all use, they can certainly do that. Put it in a Word doc or a Google Doc and then they can open each of the recruiter accounts, click add, and then paste in that message, save it, and then that would mean that each of your recruiters kind of has that opportunity to do like a one click and send out kind of a standard message. So that's adding recruiters. I'll mention that all recruiters have the same level of access to the system. So everyone you set up as a recruiter can edit your logo, they can edit the booth, they can add job vacancies, they can add additional recruiters, they can reset their password. So there is just kind of one level access. Everyone has the ability to do the same thing in the system. And so now I want to talk about video chat. So the way Premier Virtual has video chat set up is that it's set up through external links to video platforms. What Premier Virtual, or the people who started Premier Virtual, found, we were talking to an employer from Wells Fargo today that had this question or had this experience, is that employers that participate in career fairs that have integrated video or video built in are sometimes the company's firewall will block that site or block the video chat, and then that recruiter or that employer can't participate in the career fair. So that's the reason why Premier Virtual has set up this system where video chat is done via an external link. You can use any system that you would like or that your company approves: Zoom, WebEx, Skype, Google products, anything like that, to conduct video chats. So you'll set up kind of your external link where you want the video chats to happen, and then you'll have that information ready to send candidates to invite them to video chat. So there's two places you can put that information. I'm going to go back and click on the profile button. So I mentioned there was this video chat link section. And so that's kind of one way to put in a video chat link. So you can put that in. I'll show you what that looks like when we jump into actually like checking out the career fair. You can have one link there. So if you just have kind of one person from your organization that wants to do video chats, that's great. Just put that link into the profile and they'll be set. If you have multiple recruiters who you think will or definitely will want to do video chats, then you'll add that in as a message. And so it would look just like this. So you could add in a message that invites the candidate to video chat and has that link, whatever link that you would like to use. And again, your recruiters will be able to send that message with one click, inviting candidates to do the video chat. Video chat is optional. You don't have to video chat with candidates. You'll still have the opportunity to kind of chat with them within the system. So video chat is optional, know that. Yeah. So Michelle, I'll check in with you, see if there are questions so far.
No questions so far.
Okay, so let's actually kind of look at participating in the career fair. So the day of or during the career fair, kind of from your account, there's a section for My Events, and then you'll see the events that you're registered for. We're using this test career fair, so I'll click Enter Booth. And again, each of your recruiters will log in with their individual kind of separate recruiter accounts to be able to participate in the career fair. So I'm seeing a preview of my booth and what that looks like. Again, if I saw something that was off, I could go back to my dashboard and I could edit that even during the event. And then in this main section, I'm seeing in real time as candidates apply for the positions that I have posted. So if a candidate comes into the booth and applies for a position, then that will show up here. With one click, I can download their resume if I want to take a look at that. So it's showing you those positions and those candidates. You can search if you're looking for a specific person, and you can do that. And then the main part of this is, if you'll see the top left corner, there's a little chat icon, and that opens the chat section. I am using a pretty small laptop doing this demo, and for the career fair, I do recommend that you use the largest screen that you have access to. I just think the larger the screen, if you can use kind of a good full-size screen, I think it'll make it a little easier to kind of navigate and have these chats. So just a tip there. Technically, you can participate in the career fair from any device that has internet access. So phone, tablet, laptop, PC, anything like that. There aren't any downloads. But again, there is a lot of information on the screen. I think doing this on a phone would be probably pretty challenging. So kind of the larger the screen, the better. So let's look at the chat screen that I just pulled up, and there are three different columns here. So the first one is for visitors. So as candidates come into your room, and by come into your room, I mean they click on your logo and then are able to see your booth. They will show up in this visitor section, and that is real time. I'm actually logged in as a candidate, kind of on a different laptop, and so I'm technically kind of in your room, in your booth, and that's why you're seeing my information there. You can, as visitors come in, with one click, you can download their resume, and you can click on their name or kind of on this box to start a chat with them. So candidates will be able to start chats with you, and you'll be able to start chats with candidates as you would like to. So I just clicked on this visitor note, and it popped up this chat window. Because I've been using this for tests, there are already messages there, but of course you would normally pull it up and it would be blank, and then you can begin typing a message and sending that to candidates. So that could be a great opportunity to kind of welcome them to the booth, ask them about what opportunities they're looking for and things like that. This middle section has a running list of all of the messages that anyone from your organization has been in. And so this is kind of another good point to kind of share. In Premier Virtual, all of the chats that anyone from your organization is in are all kind of in this running list, and all recruiters from your organization have access to all of those chats. The idea is that, if I started chatting with one candidate and then I got caught up in a different conversation, or I needed to take a lunch break, or I needed to help a kid with school, another recruiter could just kind of jump in and answer a candidate's question or continue that conversation if that works well for you. So these are individual chats that are happening. And then down here, what you're seeing where it says Norm, that's the name of the recruiter. So you can see the name of the person who last participated in the career in the chat from your organization. If your recruiter just wants to see the chats that they're participating in, there is a button right there to show only my chats. So I could just focus in on the ones that I've participated in, or I could take a look at all of them. And then I will show you what it's like when a new chat comes in by doing a test over here. So I just sent a message from my student account. And so two things happened. One is that this started blinking to show that a chat has come in. This also will come to the top of the chat bar. And then there is an audible ding that lets you know that there's a new message. And so that's how you know that a student has put in a new message. So I click there to open that up, and I can continue that conversation. And then, of course, this last window or column on the right side is the chat bar. The predefined messages are the messages section that we looked at. And when you click one of these, it automatically sends it to the candidate. So again, as your recruiters set up these messages, we recommend setting up multiple of them. You can just kind of look at it, click it, and it will send it to the candidate. We looked at two different ways to kind of set up video chat. So I'll just mention there is a video chat link in your main profile, and that link is attached to this little recorder button. So if I click that, it's going to put text in this chat box that invites the candidate to video chat with me. So that's where the link from the kind of main profile, that's where that shows up. And then if you have individual recruiters that want to do video chats, they would be setting that up as a message, and that's from this drop-down box. What I would recommend, I think, for clarity is if you have multiple recruiters who you think may want to do video chats, I would recommend not putting a video chat link in your main profile and have those just set up via messages. So then there's less or no chance that multiple recruiters will end up in the same room, video chatting with candidates. Employers can, as you can kind of see, have multiple conversations going on at the same time. All of the chats are one-to-one, so there aren't group chats in this, but you certainly can have multiple chats going on at the same time. Now, if you send out video links to candidates and you send out the same link to multiple candidates, like, you can have multiple people in kind of a video chat area, that's up to you. The chats within the system are one-to-one. And then I'll mention a little bit from the candidate side. So we talked about that candidates, as they enter a booth, they can initiate a chat with you, and they can continue chatting with a company even if they've left the company's booth. So I don't want you to worry about that a candidate's in your room, you're having a conversation. I don't want you to worry that the candidate's going to leave your booth and go check out another booth, and that's going to end the chat. The chat window for the candidate follows the candidate, and they have somewhat of a similar look to this and it has a list of the booths or the companies that they're chatting with, and they can have multiple chats at the same time, and they can have those chats when they're in anyone's booth. So that does follow them. They get the audible ding and kind of a flashing light when they get a new chat. So kind of similar to what you all have when it comes to the chat. All right, Michelle, I'll check in with you.
Yeah, we did answer some questions. I think we got them answered well. One of the questions was, if we don't have any open positions for the fall, winter, how can we chat with students in the scenario we don't post anything in job vacancies? And I just said you can post positions that are available for spring and summer as well. It doesn't have to be for current positions. So you can start networking with students, plus you're collecting resumes for future. We are doing just a school event for students next week, and for that event, it's not necessarily a job fair, but we're using this platform. So we use the job vacancy component and just put a generic going to our Hire a Niner site for students to search for positions. So you could possibly set something up for your own organizations. And just in the job description part, we don't have positions for fall and winter, but please check our website or, hiring link at, like frequently, so they can look for things for the future as well. So that way you have something in there if they're going to it, and keeps them connected to your organization.
Yeah, that's great. Absolutely. We do get a number of employers that just recruit in the fall, and they will recruit for kind of a whole year's worth of positions. So that's not uncommon. So the last piece that I want to show you before we kind of check out any overall questions is I want to show you the data that you get when participating in the career fair. So I'm going back to the dashboard, so kind of that main screen that you'll see when you log into your account. During the career fair, after the career fair, months after the career fair, you can log into your account and access job seekers. We'll click on job seekers. So I'll share that you'll be able to see candidate information. And so that's candidate profile information, contact information, and candidate resumes for any candidate who visits your booth, and then kind of for a subsection of those who apply for any of your positions. So you won't be able to see information on all of the candidates that are signed up for an event, but you will be able to see information on any candidate who comes into your booth, whether or not they engaged in chat, whether or not they applied for positions. So the job seeker section has kind of two different categories. So I can click the visitors button, and this is showing me information on everyone who visited my booth. So you can see kind of some basic information here. I'll show you this action setting. The first one is you could download their resume with one click. You can use this system for note taking if you'd like to. You could add notes about the candidates, about what they're looking for, about how you feel about their candidacy. And then this last button shows you a log of their interaction with your booth. It takes just a second to pull up. This is going to show you how the candidate interacted with your booth. So we can see they viewed the company bio, viewed job vacancies, viewed this specific job, and submitted the resume for the job. In Premier Virtual, there isn't a way to have a chat transcript, so to see exactly what was said back and forth for legal reasons, but you can see how a candidate interacted with your booth if that's information that would be helpful for you. So you can look at this information kind of individually, You can use the export button. When you click export, it's going to save a zip file that has an Excel file or CSV file with all of the candidate information. And also the zip file will include individual files with each resume from the candidates. So that's a way to kind of download all of that information to use. And then the last piece I'll show you with this job seeker data, and this may be particularly valuable if you have a recruiter who maybe is focused on a certain division or a certain type of positions, right? You can filter by event. And if you participate in multiple fairs, you can filter by the fair. You can also filter by section. So if one of your recruiters is really focused on your finance positions, they may want to come here and click on accounting finance. And that is just going to show them only the candidates that visited your booth from the accounting and finance section of the event. And so in theory, it should show you candidates who have an interest in accounting and finance positions. And so it would kind of narrow that down for them. So that's the data that's available after the event. All right. Well, I'd love to know if there are general questions, other pieces that you want to make sure that we cover or kind of go over again.
Brooke, we have one in the chat. It says, I missed a few parts when adding recruiting. When adding their information, the username and password of the credentials we set up during the booth registration process for adding a recruiter.
Yeah, so when you add a recruiter, it's the email and the password that you set for them. That's the username and password. The username is their email. That's the information that they'll use to log into their account. So when you first sign up with Premier Virtual, you kind of are automatically creating a recruiter account. And that's this very first one that you're seeing. And the main difference is there's no delete button, because you can't delete like the very first kind of person or main person in the account. When you first sign up with Premier Virtual, it will basically be creating a recruiter account for you. And then you'll be able to kind of manually add additional recruiters, and you'll provide them the email and password, which is what they'll use to log into the Premier Virtual system. So hopefully that answered that question. For any of the career fairs that are coming up, it's very likely that we'll probably kind of technically open the career fair maybe about half an hour in advance, just to give your recruiters time to kind of get logged in, kind of get into the booth, maybe get a little bit of a feel for it. So just know that it's a great idea to kind of plan to maybe like be in the booth, be logging in, 15 minutes or so before the event, so they can get kind of settled. All right. I will point out that on any of these pages in the bottom left-hand corner, there is an icon that allows you to access accessibility options. So for anyone who would benefit from accessibility kind of settings or changes, that is available with the one click. All right. We'll do a last call for questions from you all.
Yeah, did you see this one? Because I'm doing email at the same time. It says, is the password the same for all recruiters? No.
So it could be set
right.
out that way, but you do individually set the password for each recruiter. So you could set it up to be the same. It's whatever password that you set up for them. You can't have while you can have multiple recruiters with the same password, you can't have multiple recruiters with the same email address. That probably is, probably isn't a case that would happen, but each recruiter has to have a distinct email address. And you can, because I know things happen for in-person fairs, and I'm sure that they'll happen for virtual career fairs. If it's time for the career fair or half an hour in and you realize a recruiter that was going to participate is not able to, and you need to sub someone, again, you can go to your account and add them as a recruiter kind of right then. Or if a recruiter can't get into their account, you can go in and reset their password even during the career fair. I'll point out just kind of right here There is access information to Premier Virtual for tech support during the fair. They are also in the process of launching a tech support kind of chat option, which will be a little easier to access. But I at least want to point out this information. You kind of know that it's there. So that would be for any like technical issues that you run into. And then for career fairs, in this fall, we'll also be sending employers out a link to a video chat room, so probably a Zoom room or a WebEx room that you all can use to get kind of general help, especially kind of non-technical help. So we will provide that way for you to get help kind of from the Career Center, from our staff there. So there'll be a couple of ways for you all to get assistance during the event if anything were to happen. All right. Well, again, thank you all for being here. We hope this was helpful and gave you some good tips and information that will make the career fair smooth or as smooth as possible for you.